Today's topic is demand curve. Now, demand curve is a graphical representation of how the law of demand acts. That is, with every increase in a price of a commodity, there is a decrease in the quantity demanded for a commodity. So the demand curve looks like this, where the quantity demanded are on this axis and the prices are on this axis. Okay, now there is some reason for the shape of the demand curve. You can see the shape of this demand curve is downward, or you can say negatively sloped. So there are reasons behind it. First of all, the most important one is it follows the law of demand. That is why its shape is in this manner. And other than that, there are certain more points to it. See, we are going to find the answer for why is the demand curve downward sloping or negatively sloped. So the reason behind the shape of the demand curve. Now the first point that we have is law of diminishing marginal utility. Now first, when we are discussing about this law, we have to understand the meanings of these two terms that we had come across. First is marginal and another is utility. So first of all, marginal means additional. So marginal means additional and utility means satisfaction. That is, the satisfaction that we derive is termed as utility. Now marginal and utility together, that is marginal utility, is defined as the additional satisfaction derived by consumption of an additional unit. Of a commodity. You see, the additional satisfaction that we derive by consumption of an additional unit of a commodity is what is termed as MU, that is marginal utility, where M means marginal, that is additional, and U means utility. Now, though utility or satisfaction cannot be termed in a number, cannot be quantified, but still in economics we quantify it in order to explain the different laws of demand or any law of economics. Now here the law of diminishing marginal utility states that the marginal utility of that commodity continues to decline if the consumer buys more units of a commodity. Now to understand it, we'll take an example. For an example, we are out at a very hot day, and then when we return, of course, the thing that we look for is water. The first glass of water that we drink gives us a satisfaction of about, for an example, 5. 5 is the utility that we derive out of it. On the consumption of the second glass of water, our utility decreases to 4. And and on the third consumption it decreases further to 2. On fourth consumption it decreases to 0, and on fifth consumption we tend to vomit out the water, so it's like the utility reduces to -2, that is negative. So you can see by the trend that with every increase in the unit of the commodity, that is here in the example the glass of water, the utility that we derive from it, the marginal utility, tends to fall. So this is what we call as marginal utility. Now there are, as because this is also a law, there will be an assumption, that is these unit of consumption must be one after another. There shouldn't be much time gap. Otherwise, you may again tend to feel thirsty. And that point of time, the marginal utility may be same or even increasing. So that is why the consumption should be made one after another. Now, the second reason is the price effect. Every commodity has certain consumers. And when the price of a commodity falls, new consumers also start to consume it. Like for an example, if the price of a commodity was such that it was unaffordable for certain income group people, now as its price decreased, it now became affordable for those people belonging to that income group also. So therefore, it attracts new consumers and therefore the total demand also increases. Now we will move to the next point, that is income effect. Now when the price of a commodity decreases, the real income of the consumer increases. That is, for an example, if a consumer, his income monthly salary is 50,000 for an example, and he tends to spend about 30,000 of his total income on various expenses. Now, if he spends this amount 30,000, so he could only save 20,000. Now, when the price of the commodity decreased, he could buy all of that commodity that he was purchasing in 30,000 now at only 25,000, because the price of the commodities have now decreased. Therefore, previously 50,000 salary, he could only save 20, but now he can spend 25, consume the same commodities, but yet save 50% of his income. So this means the real income increases. Now, the next point is multiple uses of a certain goods. That is, there are certain goods which can be used for different purposes. For an example, water. It is used for our daily purposes, domestic purposes, sanitation, and also for generation of hydroelectricity and so on. Now, whenever there is a certain good which can be used for multiple times for multiple reasons, then when the price increases of such goods, then we only use them for the important things and we cut off the use of the unimportant reasons that we were using it for. For an example, if the price of milk is increasing, we will only concentrate on consuming milk what is required. We will cut off the other uses of milk that we usually did. Now, the fifth point that we have is substitution effect. Now, substitution means substituting or you're using something instead of the other. Now, with a fall in the price of a commodity and the price of its substitute remaining the same, the consumer will buy more units of that commodity. See, the classic example that we had of tea and coffee as complementary goods. Now, see, the price of tea was 5 rupees for an example, and coffee was 10 rupee. It's usually more costly than tea. Then again, it depends upon what kind of tea and coffee. Similarly, now the price of tea remains 5, just the way it was. But coffee has decreased to 6. Now people will tend to consume more of coffee, shift their preference from tea to coffee because now coffee was becoming cheaper compared to tea. Though you can see now the difference in price 5 and 6, it seems like coffee is still more pricey, but still, as a type of good it is, coffee is usually more costlier than tea. So people prefer coffee as in because it is more costly, it's a delicacy, that is why. So 6 rupees for coffee is comparatively less in compared to 5 rupees for tea. So you can see when the price of tea is constant, then because of the decrease in the price of coffee, the demand for tea decreases because the price of coffee has decreased. So these are the major reasons behind the downward sloping demand curve.